Patrick, can I kick us off? And you're going to laugh at this because I've already asked you twice about this already, but I'm really into the structure of the football club and where we are. When you came in, it was massively short. So I've spoke to you before about medical department, about commercial and things like that, and putting the correct structure around Russell, not only with Kevin arriving, that party's here as well, etc. So there's talk of others coming in from the academy. Where are we in that process? I know that's a wide ranging question because I've just said to you half the stadium and everybody coming in, but the structure to me is really important. It's really important to the fans as well, considering where we've been. Can you give us an update?
I firstly fully agree that structure is absolutely essential for the club to be successful, and also to make sure that we've got stability so that if individuals come and go, whoever they are, we've got a stable structure and we know what we're recruiting for when somebody leaves. So I think on the football side, which is I think where we'll probably start with that, and we can go into other areas, but the key for me actually in all areas is getting the right leader in for each area. So whether it's the football side, the commercial side, comms and marketing side with Greg, is getting in, right, do we actually have the right person in place already? And if not, let's go out and get the best person that we can for the club. And if you get that leadership level right, you've then got experts in their field, and they will then know what the best structure beneath that looks like. So that brings us back to football. The priority was bringing in Kevin, and Kevin's going to be far better placed than me to say, right, everything that sits beneath it, I know what this should look like and what we need to hire. You'll assess who's currently here, but also hire where we've got gaps. Now, I did some preamble work to that as part of the football review, saying, look, we got in externals and we did a lot of that work, but I shared all of that work with Kevin. And part of the process in bringing Kevin on board was to share ideas, to look at here's my own experience, having spent a few months here. Here's the external perspective. Kevin, what's your perspective? We've shared all of that. So Kevin comes in with some insights, some ideas, but it's now Kevin's job to start building that structure. And Kev, you can speak to that.
Yeah, no, exactly that really. So when I first joined Everton 3.5 years ago, it was in a similar position to where Rangers could refine itself, and in reality, I wanted to do exactly what Patrick's just underlined, and that was to say, okay, well, clearly we've got some really good people here. We don't want to lose those people. We want to try and make sure those people understand that they're going to be supported, and we give those individuals a chance to grow. But clearly, there's also going to be some gaps in provision. There's going to be some spaces where we do need to recruit quickly to give us the best chance of all of these support services being as strong as they can to make the team better.
So I would ask you then, to follow that up, what does recruitment and staffing look like for you? What do you need, and where will that be up to speed where we can say, right, we've got the proper background for Russell, the proper teams there? So I'm talking about medical, academy, etc. What are you looking to implement?
Yeah, well, number one, just need to get my feet under the table and just have the opportunity to sit down with those heads of department.
No, you've been here 24 hours. Let's go. Patrick, tell them.
So a big part of the process is actually sitting down with the people who are closest to it. To say, come on, tell us what the big rocks are. Let me understand what the big issues are. We can try and get after some of that low-hanging fruit in the first instance to make sure we fit the purpose. But then it's also through those conversations, through being in the building, through understanding how people operate, then making some hard and fast decisions about what we do next. And I've got absolutely no doubt there's going to be lots of really good people here at the Rangers Football Club. I've seen that already. But I'm also understanding that our provision needs to improve. And so it'll be adding to those good people to make us as strong as we can, as quickly as we possibly can, effectively.
Patrick, sorry, last one on this bit. Sorry, guys, to hold this kind of bit commercially. Sean Jameson was obviously here, and you told me back in January, told us all that it was a kind of 6 month and helping us more or less to do a review and show us what's happening commercial.
Yeah.
So where are we with that? Is he staying for a while yet? What's his situation?
Okay, so 6 months ago, the commercial department had revenue generation, communications, marketing, and fan engagement all sitting underneath it. So one big step we've already taken is to take the revenue generation away and put marketing, communications, fan engagement under Greg. So Greg coming in is already kind of one of the big changes. And how we split commercial into two was something that Greg, myself, and Sean and others, but worked on what makes the best structure. So we're now we're in the market for a chief commercial officer. We're in fairly advanced stage processes in that, and we'll be hiring a chief commercial officer that will then head up the revenue generation side, and then that would be Sean leaving once that person's hired.
So very much like Neil's, maybe do that kind of overlap and help settle in, and then
yeah, I mean whether or not there is an overlap or a baton change, it depends on who we get as the candidate, because some have notice periods, others don't. It really just depends where we land. Sean has already said he can be flexible, so I'm comfortable that we're going to focus on getting the right candidate rather than just a body in the door. And
time on our side there.
Yeah.
But, thank you.
So Kevin, this is maybe not a day one thing, but the academy that we have is a disaster. It doesn't produce first team players, and it doesn't produce players who can be sold on. It's basically it's like a job creation scheme gone awry. In terms of the academy itself, what do you envisage it doing? What its aims?
Yeah, well, in reality, the academy has to help us to win. So we need to be developing our own talents. There's absolutely no doubt about that. For Australian first team to get that bit done, I know what the job is. But if we're going to win tomorrow, then young players from our academy has to be a part of that plan, because you can't sustain success otherwise.
And it just doesn't. It hasn't produced, and that's the issue. And after a while, you're sort of, what's the point of it? If every year we can't bring in, and every year there are names we hear where he's doing really well at this level, and then they're freed, the following summer, and it just becomes frustrating.
I know you don't want to talk about the past, but this structure thing with the head coach and the sport director, in my opinion, the Rangers have paid lip service to that in the past. They've had people in those kind of roles, but the manager became the absolute focal point of the club. Just look around you, that's what the club has been on. You won't tell us that's really doable going forward. Like, it's just too much that they seem to be asked to comment on just about everything. They became an absolute lightning rod to that. For the structure to work, then just allowing Russell to deal with stuff on the grass, or both of you willing, able, keen to step into that role, take that visibility, take a lot of the, because there's always a maelstrom around this club. That's just the nature of it, and so that it's not all completely directed to one person who's, to be honest, job should be focused on 10 other things than the thing that one has to speak about.
Yeah, I mean, the reality, if you look at modern football nowadays, then you're looking more and more at head coach, and that manager role starting to disappear a little bit, isn't it? For the right reasons, because to your point, they have to talk about a million and one things, and then they lose focus, or they haven't got the time to focus on the most important bit, which is team, fundamentally results. And so that's where the sporting director role basically grew out of, effectively. In the first instance, how do we provide expertise and support for this guy who's getting absolutely swamped?
Yeah.
And he got enough. Certainly, at our club now, he's going to have enough pressure on him, isn't he? So he needs to be in the weeds on preparation, performance, results. And it's actually no different for a sporting director. They're actually starting to say, like, for example, we've appointed Dan Purdy as a technical director to be very specific on expertise around recruitment, because it's just so important. A performance director, because you need somebody who's been very specific and got high-level specialism around medical and sports science. So it's clear that's direction of travel in the modern game. And so the reason I'm appointed and the reason I work so closely with Patrick is that we all work together to provide Russell and the team with the best opportunity to succeed. And if he's going to succeed, we need to keep focused on the stuff on the pitch. Don't we? Guys, talk more about it, please.
In terms of the running the club, Patrick, obviously we've seen over the years, eye-watering amounts of money have had to come from the investors, and obviously preparing for 49ers coming in, it's about 19 million, but either in loans or whatever. That's obviously not sustainable, but have you, as I asked you downstairs, you've been able to, either in terms of player trading, new commercial opportunities, what's going to be different
Look, I think when you look at football clubs, they're relatively straightforward in terms of business models, in that there's lots of football clubs around the world, and not many are doing things that differently from others. So it's about, executing things well, and I think that's where I think there's a couple of things. The model for a professional football club is relatively simple, but you still need a strategy, and you still need to be really clear with everyone within the club about what is the strategy and how are you going to execute it. But then it's that real discipline around executing it, and that needs leadership, good people, focus and discipline and process. And that's what we're focused on. It doesn't sound at all sexy, but player trading is going to be an important part of generating revenue. But we've been talking about that for a long time now. So it's not that it's a new idea. It's about, well, how are we actually going to put words into actions? And this is where, okay, let's make sure we've got a sporting director and then technical director that is layering up our expertise there. Because in the past, you've had chief execs running the club, dealing with investors, whilst also doing recruitment on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to be serious about player trading, let's put in place the right people, give them the resources, so we can actually really execute on it. So I don't think if I was to present the strategy to you, you'd probably go, well, it's not rocket science, I've seen all of this before. But that's the key is, look, when you boil it down, the revenue streams can only come from certain places. But to get those flowing, you've got to be ruthlessly disciplined on the delivery of it. And back to your point about making sure you've got the right structures in place. But these are really important things.
Also, do you have the kind of, or do you even consider the kind of the longer term view? This week you announced people who are going to be sitting in various SPFL and SFA, because the commanding heights of Scottish football have certainly been very unfriendly to Rangers.
Yeah.
Let's say the last 10, 15 years. And that has to change. For instance, VAR comes in and people say, oh, VAR. I said, it's only going to benefit one club in Scotland. It ain't going to be us, because that's the control that we don't have. We are not looking for control, but we're looking for a level playing field. So, you need to do what's happened in Rangers, but you also need to change the structure of the game in terms of what even you're talking about in terms of the academy. The problem we've had for years is, as soon as you hit 16, anybody's half decent, the English just take them and warehouse them. But as well as that now, there's no real structure above that, kind of like the old reserve style teams where you could mix and match with, promising guys and hand-bitten pros. So in terms of that, you've got a bit of a dog's breakfast to deal with there. It ain't going to be solved this season. But, looking forward, we need that as well.
Just one last thing, guys. Huge week, takeover announced last Friday. You're in the door this week, and new head coach out there. Fans were right. Champions League feels like it's going to be, even the qualifiers in about 20 minutes. How confident are we that deals are ready to go and players are going to be in place?
Yeah, so I mean, you make a really good point that started on Monday formally. Russell starts formally today, but before this point, we've been doing a lot of hard work to making sure that we're putting some preparatory groundwork to be able to get in the right spot, to be able to execute as early as possible. Of course, we now need to sit down with Russell and say, okay, come on, let's really have a conversation about what the current group looks like, what we specifically think we need in relation to how we're going to play, and then get him to watch more profiles, because they're clearly through a process that's not difficult to share with him in that first moment.
Yeah.
But I'm very confident that we're in a good spot that we can do this training.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The following Football Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.